So thank you all again for joining us this afternoon. This is a webinar specifically about academics at Colgate. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. My name is Gabriela Marrero. I'm one of the Associate Deans of Admission here at Colgate, as well as the Coordinator of Access and Equity Initiatives. And I am joined by two professors and a student this afternoon. So Professor Tomlinson, if you want to go first with introducing yourself here.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Tomlinson. I'm a social psychologist in the psychological and brain sciences department, and I'm also here as the core university professor for the sciences. I oversee that aspect of the core curriculum, and I do research on relationships and health.
You, Professor Balve, if you'd like to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Teo Balve. I'm in the Peace and Conflict Studies program and also in the Department of Geography. I am also one of the core university professors, and I'm the director of the piece of it that's called Core Communities. And I do research on the drug war in Colombia, South America.
Thank you. And Shigufta, if you want to go ahead.
Hello everyone, I'm Shigupta. I'm an international student here. I'm a rising sophomore. I'm from Bangladesh and I'm planning on majoring in molecular biology or neuroscience. I'm still kind of confused. And on campus, I'm involved with research. I'm working in a developmental neurobiology lab with Professor Jason Myers here. And also, I'm also one of the community leaders, which is more like the RS in the dorms. And I also work in the admissions office as a admissions intern for the summer.
Amazing. Well, thank you all again for joining us this afternoon. Just to give folks what you can expect with this webinar, we have some questions for our professors and our student here to give us more of a glimpse of what you guys can expect within the academic realm at Colgate. Please do feel free to use the Q&A section as well. While they are answering some general questions, I'll be answering those questions in the Q&A. We do ask that you do stay to the topic of academics at Colgate. So if your questions are about the curriculum, academics, please feel free to share them in the chat. Otherwise, if you do have questions that aren't related to academics, what I'll do is I'll share our admissions at Colgate.edu email in the chat, and feel free to ask those questions so that we can get in contact with you and answer your curiosity. So with that, we'll get started here with our questions. So Colgate's core curriculum is a distinctive part of a student's educational experience at Colgate University. Can you guys provide a brief overview of Colgate's current core curriculum and what makes it unique? And then in addition to that, how does the core curriculum provide that really necessary foundation for a liberal arts experience?
Yeah, so the liberal arts core curriculum, or the core as we call it, is what is designed to give students the sort of broadest, most well-rounded intellectual journey, academic experience. So as a liberal arts school, we do want students to take all different kinds of classes and all different kinds of subjects. You always have like your major and your minor that you end up focusing the majority of your classes with. But the core is a way to sort of explore the full breadth of what Colgate offers. And it includes, there's uh, three sort of main courses that are standalone courses that form, sorry, four, that form the core of the core. And then there are some other requirements that are slightly different that I can explain in a minute. So the first one is the first year seminar. All students take that their fall semester, and that class you choose amongst a menu, a ranking, and those classes can be on any topic. Some of them are existing classes that professors are teaching as an FSEM, first year seminar, or they're new classes that were developed specifically to be one of those FSEMs. And first year seminars, in addition to sort of like the content of the course, is also kind of like a welcome to college course. It's writing intensive. There's modules about it that have to do more with, like, say, the honor code or different aspects of academic social life on campus beyond the content of the course. So all students take that. And then there are three courses that all students take. The first one is called Core Conversations, and that is a single class I mean, each professor that teaches that class gives a sort of spin on it, but Core Conversations is a class that focuses on more kind of canonical texts. So there's five core texts, Frankenstein, Antigone, some others. And that's like a close reading of these works of literature. It's kind of more of a humanities approach. And then there's core sciences, which is from like a menu of courses. So there's different courses, some that are chemistry related, some are more geology related, but all those courses are they're not like hardcore science classes. You're not doing like big labs or anything like that. It's more about understanding the scientific process and the making of science like within society. So understanding science as like a social process, not some just abstract search for truth. And then core communities, which is the component that I lead, our classes are also a menu of classes. And those courses are really kind of more of a social science approach to different kinds of communities, be they countries, social groups. So we have like a core Black youth class. We have a class called Queer Origins. We have a class called Core Wilderness, but also Core Mexico, Core Brazil. And professors teach those slightly differently. And that's the courses. And then there's a series of other requirements, but those requirements are tags onto existing classes. So if you're like an English major, you will fulfill some of those tags by your English classes. So it's not that you have to take any more additional classes. It just means that the classes that you take in whatever department will count towards one of these other extra requirements.
Wonderful. Thank you, Professor Baba. I appreciate that. Professor Tomlinson, can you talk a little more about what it's like to be a professor in a typical Colgate classroom?
Yeah, if I had to use one word, I would say engaging is probably the word I would pick. I think on both sides, it's just really exciting to see what happens in the classroom. Every teacher, every professor who comes here loves teaching and research, and so you're getting cutting edge content that is kind of on the brink of everything that's happening in the field, and then also being brought to you by someone who loves teaching. And so we really have great conversations and discussions in all classes, even regardless of size. And yeah, and I think there's kind of a synergy that happens where I go in there with certain questions and things that I want to discuss, but I'm also really excited to hear what the students have to say. And so there's a lot of back and forth, and um, obviously the professor shares content and their perspective on things, but it's really great to hear what the students have to say as well. So, Shagufta, maybe you could add more about what the student side is like.
So if I say like one word, if I try to explain my whole Colgate experience for the first year, it would be amazing. So here, like I knew I wanted to go for STEM, and I knew I wanted to do something with research, and that's why I wanted to choose a liberal arts curriculum where I can like explore because I knew I wanted to do STEM, but I didn't know exactly what. It can be biochem, molecular bio, or neuro. So I got enough chance to explore around and like play around with all the courses and like to find what I'm truly interested in. And the professors here are amazing. They are like super welcoming. The office hours that we have the professors have like two mandatory office hours every week. So you can always go in and talk with, just have a chat with them, even if you don't have any questions regarding academics. And they're like super welcoming for everything. And sometimes like I'm studying, suppose all my classes are in that building and I'm studying there and I run with any problem. If my professor's door is open, I can always barge in and they'll be happy to help me with any sort of problem I have. And from the very beginning, I knew I wanted to do something with research. So at my very beginning, at my first semester, I reached out to a bunch of professors from the biology department, chemistry department, neuroscience department, and just emailed them randomly that I'm interested in research and like how can I get involved? I'm a freshman. And like everyone more or less replied to me. I went to their office hours, talked more about my interests. And obviously like I never imagined that I could do research just as being a freshman. And one day one professor was like, oh, you know what, maybe from next semester I might have a space in my lab, so just join in. So just like that, I started doing research with Professor Jason Myers here. And obviously I didn't know all the research skills that everyone needs. He was always there to teach me everything hand in hand, and he's been like super helpful. And like obviously it was a life-changing experience for me to get involved with research and get the hands-on experience right from my freshman year. So I would say it was only possible because of the relationship that you can build with the professors here. They want you to get engaged with this sort of activities. So I would say that's like a core part of your Colgate experience here, the relationship that you build with the professors.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing, Shagupta. I appreciate that. To the professors, if I could pose the question about research opportunities that your departments have led, and what other opportunities there might be for faculty-student collaboration, whether it's in the classroom or outside the classroom.
Yeah, so I would say I agree with what Shagufta said too. We love finding students like her who are excited. And I personally especially love to get first years involved in my lab and then, have them stay with me for a while. But I would say there are about kind of four main ways you can get involved with research on campus. The first is the way that Shagufta described with working as a research assistant in someone's lab. So often that kind of just happens organically through getting to know someone in a class and chatting with them during office hours. And then you might kind of have the student start off with helping out a more senior student who has been in the lab for a bit and getting started with running participants for in psychology we have human participants, but there are lots of different participants per se across a variety of fields. And then we also have a really robust summer research program where faculty members across divisions will submit kind of an abstract of what they would like to have students work on, and then students can apply. Um, and we get great students through that as well. And then there are also through the Career Center, you can apply for I think they call it kind of summer internship funding, where so if you wanted to go and work as a research assistant somewhere else at another university, you can apply for funding to help support that. And so that's a really great opportunity if there's something that you want to study that there isn't available on campus, or if you have a certain location you want to be in. And so that can be a great way to make connections at other universities as well. And then we also have many departments have a senior thesis where you get a chance to engage in your own student-led research. There are also student-led summer research opportunities, I should say. But in my department, the senior thesis is kind of the big capstone, and I think many departments have something like that where you have a chance to really engage with the scholarship and contribute to it on your own as well. So yeah, and working with students in that close kind of way is one of my favorite things to do here on campus.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. Also to the group here, how does a Colgate education transition to experiential learning? So that might be an off-campus study or just, an internship, things like that. How have you guys seen that translate into experiences like that?
A lot, I guess is the short answer. Um, but so Colgate has two sort of more short-term travel classes and then semester-long study abroad. So the short ones is one is called a sophomore residential seminar where you take a course and it's all sophomores, and the people who are in that course also live in the same building as each other. So it's this sort of living learning kind of spilling over that boundary between living and learning. And so, for instance, in the fall, I'm teaching a class called Criminal Underworld that's all about illicit global economies. And, we do the semester as you would August to December. And then in January, we're taking a trip to Portugal and Spain to learn about, policy-related issues there. And then there's an extended study, which is the same idea, but it's open to students from any year. And sometimes those trips are a little bit longer. So my trip is 7 to 10 days. Extended studies sometimes are like 2 weeks. And then study abroad, which most students do their junior year, whether it's in the fall or in the spring. Colgate runs its own study abroad programs. So I, for instance, have taken Colgate students. One year we went to Copenhagen, in Denmark. Another year we were in Australia in a city called Wollongong. Um, and those students took a class with me that we traveled within the country, and then took their other three courses with the university students, the local university students. So there's that. I mean, there's also study abroad programs that aren't run by Colgate, that are approved by Colgate, that you can do where you're not with other Colgate students. So the Colgate run study groups is more of sort of like a hybrid type model.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
And this question is particularly for Shagufta. Could you share with us how, through your journey as a student so far, just like the different support systems that you've gotten from your faculty, any experiences to share in that regard?
Yeah, so definitely the faculty, then again, it's the most helpful resource here on campus. So, as Professor Teo said, we do have the first year seminar, and the professor that teaches the class becomes your academic advisor until you declare your major. And they're like the ultimate resource until you declare your major. They will like help you pick out your courses for the next semester. If you wanna try to overload yourself, they'll like stop you from overloading, or like they'll like provide you the complete guidance on which courses to choose if you want to like if you have any major in mind or anything. Then again, a lot of people come here like undeclared, they don't know what to major in. So then again, the academic advisor plays a really important role in that. They help you out with choosing like different courses from different fields so that you get to explore all the fields and then decide later on that what you actually want to major in. So I would say academic advisors are a very useful resource here. And then again, you can always go in and have a chat with them, even if you're like homesick. They're like super helpful on that too. And after you declare your major at the end of your sophomore year, or before that if you want, you can select your academic advisor, which will be someone who's more related to your major. So they can help you figure out what you want to do later on with that major and stuff. So professors super helpful. And for me, like my academic advisor was obviously a very useful resource. Whenever I got homesick or anything, I would always go to her, and like she would just have a talk with me, and she was like really amazing. And then again, the faculty comes in when I wanted to do research. I reached out to the professors. They were helpful on that. They like everyone replied back to me. Like they told me to reach out to their office hours so that I can like express my interest. Like no one like denied me of anything. Like they're like, okay, come to my office hours. We can have a talk. Like what are your actual interests about? So the professors actually love the Colgate students, and they love to have just a conversation with them at the end of the day. So
It's true.
Amazing. Thank you guys for sharing. So there's some really good questions coming in the Q&A. I will say, if they are a little more specific to Shagufta's experience or any of the professors, do feel free to reach out to them personally if it is a little more personalized about their research, what have you. But we do have some good questions. One example is how you guys might have seen students, or even Shagufta, your experience with like taking the core curriculum classes at like different periods in their education. Are they all taking them, in their first year? Are they pretty spread out evenly? I know there's a lot of options there, but does anybody have any like stories of students to share or any experiences that they can tell?
I can talk a little bit about that. So we do have the core curriculum where you have to take three core courses. So you have to like get them done by the end of your sophomore year. So you can spread them around, like you can take one core every semester. So my first year seminar was my core communities. So you get like a wide range of options to choose from. So whichever community you are interested in, you can pick them. Like I took core Afro-Asia, so I learned more about the connection between African and Asian communities. It was a pretty interesting class. So you can choose anything you want. There's like a lot of options: core France, core Peru, core Eurasia. So you can choose whatever you want. Then for core conversation, we read a certain set of books, like 5 books. So you can take that at any time just before your sophomore year ends. And then lastly, core science. It can be any science class. And then again, if you're not a big sciencey person, you can take a AI class or a stat class, which will count towards the core science. So for every core courses, we have like a big list of all the courses, cluster of courses will count towards the core. So you can choose anything you want and like get the requirement out of your way. So I would say it's not that big of a hard thing to get the requirements out of the way. And for the liberal arts curriculum, you get to explore all the fields by taking these core courses.
Mm.
Yeah, just to add a little bit from my perspective, I teach a class on science of relationships, and I really do get a range of students. Like some come in knowing about psychology and thinking that they might want to major in it, and so then the class pulls a lot from the social psychology, the way we study relationships, starting about how you enter a relationship, how we decide who to be in a relationship with, and how friendship works. And then how you maintain relationships, the dark side of relationships, what happens when a relationship ends, all sorts of things along those lines. And so there are some students who are like, yeah, I love psychology, I want to keep going with this, and then there are others who never even really knew what that was about. Or there are some who are like, oh, that sounds like less sciencey, so let me take it. And we do a lot of cool experimental research and stuff. So I think sometimes I am able to get people interested in the topic when maybe they wouldn't have necessarily taken a class in that area. So I've had people who are like kind of blown away because they had no idea what psychology was or that you could study relationships. And then yeah, so it's just a kind of a wide range. And I think you kind of have these aha moments sometimes where people are like, wow, I didn't know you could do science in this way. And so it's kind of fun to just see the broad range of experiences. And these classes really are designed for anyone to engage with. And so you can kind of find what you like or and find a topic that speaks to you as you pick your classes off the different menus that we have.
Amazing, thank you. There are a couple of questions about an average class size at Colgate. So currently, average class size is 17 students. But I would love to hear from the professors about, how that smaller class size can really make a difference when it comes to teaching students, to making connections with peers, and even, research opportunities. So if you guys could speak a little on that.
Yeah, so um, classes, a small class, yeah, would be somewhere between 17, 18 students. Bigger classes would be about 25 students. Most courses don't get bigger than that unless they're like intro bio, which ends up being a slightly kind of different model. But yeah, the model overall, 90% of the classes, 95% of the classes you take are going to be small classes. And as a teacher, what you can do in small classes are all kinds of things that you can't do in such, big groups. So with 18 students, you can really have a free-flowing, coherent, in-depth classroom discussion about an issue in a way that there would be no way of doing that if there were 35, 40 people in the room. Like you just wouldn't get a word in, right? Um, and then it also allows for kind of group work with between students within courses. A lot of professors take advantage of that sort of more student-led learning. Um, and then it's just, there's only 18 people in the room, so you get to know students in a way that professors at large universities never do. Just being in the classroom day in, day out with people, you get to know them. By the end of the semester, everyone knows each other. You're like cracking jokes. Like it's a vibe just um, that's really good with small classes. Yeah.
There are also a couple of questions about like how flexible the curriculum is. So if you guys have any stories that you can share about just students really finding their way through the curriculum, maybe coming in with one major and switching, just talking about the flexibility a little bit there.
I can add a little bit on that. Like, I came in here, I knew I wanted to be a STEM major, something on the biology, molecular bio, or neuro, something like that. But still, I knew Colgate had a really good econ program. So in my first semester, I took intro to econ just to explore the course. Like, I liked it, but it's not something I want to major in, but still, I got to explore the course. Then again, last semester, I took intro to archaeology just because I was It was something I was interested in. So you get to explore, you have enough time to explore outside your major. Even if you want a double major, you'll get some time to explore around different fields. Then again, I know someone like I'm working in the admissions with them. She came in as a maths major, then she's now a philosophy and a religion double major. So you get enough time to explore around, and you can like have a big switch up like that because like you can find your passion while like exploring different courses. So it's a big thing here.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of students take, my geography classes or my peace and conflict studies, and they're like, gosh, I didn't even know this was a thing. And maybe they discover it their second semester sophomore year and end up declaring a major when they came in thinking, they were going to do something entirely different. And that's what the core is supposed to do is like expose you to enough things to where you might discover something you didn't even know existed that becomes your passion and, career, etc. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the registrar does a really good job. As people are planning their schedules, there's a whole process of rating things that you're interested in, but they do a really good job of getting you started with the core and started with some liberal arts practices, which expose you to things like, confronting collective challenges and writing and quantitative reasoning. And so everyone can find something that they're interested in within all those categories, and then that sometimes takes you in unexpected directions. And yeah, it is really neat. I would say that the students here have really well-rounded interests. Like they may have one thing that they're majoring in, but then a minor in something completely different. And it's just neat to see all of the creative combinations of things that people end up with.
Amazing. Thank you all for sharing. We do only have 3 minutes left, so I do apologize if we can't get to your question tonight, but I highly encourage you to reach out to the admission@colgate.edu email if you would like your answer or your question answered there, excuse me. And our panelists did share their contact information as well, so feel free to get in touch with one of them as well. But with the last 2 minutes here, if you guys could just talk a little more about the first FSEM course that students take here. What are some examples of things that will be covered through that course and what they can expect there?
The FSEM is one of my favorite things to teach. That was actually how I became a PhD in psychology, taking a course similar at my alma mater. And so I teach them every couple of years. And, you get introduced to a topic, but there are also several other pieces to it. So you learn about the process of writing and get a lot of feedback on your writing early on, and that can be really helpful. And the professors in those classes also take the time to introduce you to the academic schedule and, make you aware of when the withdrawal deadline is, and, just kind of really walk you through what the first year is like and what to expect. And as Shugupta was saying, they're also your advisor, so they help you plan your schedule and are really there for you along the way as you begin your journey here. So they're a really fun, and it's also a very tight-knit group typically, where you go through orientation together, and I think still, and and so you get to know the other students in that class really well, and it's kind of like I like to talk about it as kind of your safe haven and your secure base to explore out from, to use some psychology terms. So it's kind of like the group that you can go to if you're stressed is your safe haven, and then when you are ready to kind of explore out and figure out other things, they can also provide a kind of a jumping off point for you to figure out what you want to do next.
They're also like topically, academically, the topics tend to be like quirkier and funkier than standard classes. So professors often use FSEMs to sort of experiment with topics or courses, or maybe you have like a hobby topic that you don't normally do in your research or in your teaching, and you teach about it as an FSEM. So it's sort of like a fun academic space, I think, for both students and for the faculty.
Amazing. Well, thank you all again for being with us this afternoon. Professor Tomlinson, Professor Balve, and Shagufta, thank you for sharing your insights. This webinar is recorded, and we'll make sure that we put it on our virtual programming webpage if you do want to go back and take a look at what we've discussed. And again, if we didn't get to answer your question today, please reach out to any of us, and we'll be happy to reach out to you. So thank you all again. Have a great evening, and definitely explore a little more about Colgate. There's so much to explore on our website. There's virtual programming. There's a lot more information on majors, minors, curriculum, even the first year seminar, some of the course samplings there. So definitely check us out. And if you do have any questions, just follow up with us. All right. Awesome. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.